Hello, everyone. Dr. Judy here, Dr. Judy WTF, and I finally got my headset and my microphone, so hopefully everyone can hear me real clearly. I know I've had a lot of comments in the past about the quality of the sound, so I sure hope I fixed it today. And I believe that the call-in center is working well. And so this is a call-in show, everyone. Please feel free to call in, and we will be mind mapping today, and particularly we will be discussing when it's time to go no contact with a narcissist. When is it necessary to go no contact with a narcissist? And just a little bit about me, I'm a psychologist. I am the director of the Psychological Healing Center here in Sherman Oaks, and we do a lot of Zoom calls. We do a lot of international work. I have a beautiful team of people who work with me and are trained in the mind map system. And so everyone is welcome to call in to the clinic and request a free consultation, or if you want to do an intensive consultation, you're welcome to do that too. And please, 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 everyone, grab a copy of my book, Be the Cause, Healing Human Disconnect. This is the breakdown of my system for healing, which really goes into detail about the mind map and the journey of healing from the wounds of childhood through dismantling them and then paradigm shifting the whole system into a healing. So let's start here. Let's start with what is narcissism. And I know that I have talked about this endlessly on countless of my YouTube episodes, but it never hurts to review because it is a little bit confusing. People throw that word around very casually. She's a narcissist. He's a narcissist. Well, people can behave in narcissistic ways, but there are some hallmarks that really show up in this particular psychopathology that'll tag the person to somebody to really be wary of. And specifically, I want to point to a few qualities. Number one, the inability to empathize with other human beings. They just don't know how to do it. It's almost like they're missing a certain chip, and it's all about their perspective. So they can't really put themselves into your shoes. And that's a very painful situation if you're in a relationship with somebody like that, because in a relationship, you want to have intimacy and you want to have emotional intimacy and you want to have the ability to put yourself in the other person's shoes and vice versa so that you can get each other. Because if you don't get each other, then really what are you doing there? Just controlling each other or depending on each other or projecting on each other or mostly playing out what I call the WTF or repetitive patterns so that you keep looping through the same old patterns, which we will break down today. So a couple of more hallmarks that I want to bring to your attention is the inability to self-reflect and self-correct. I think this is a really huge a red flag. When someone does not know how to own up to their own stuff, when someone has no ability to look in the mirror other than to see how cute they are, how handsome they are, we've got a problem there. Why? Because if you don't own your own stuff, if you're not able to see it and step outside of yourself and look at your behavior a little bit more objectively and see your impact on another human being, then how the heck are you supposed to grow? And how the heck are you supposed to connect with somebody when you're not able to understand your impact? So I think that this is a really important key element here, is that you want to be in relationship with somebody who is able to self-reflect and self-correct. Now, there are other key markers that I want to bring up. Another key marker is that the person it has the kind of hole in the soul where they're controlling and manipulating and gaslighting you in order to keep you in a particular controlled situation. Because when you lack empathy and you lack this emotional intimacy, it's as though you don't really have a way of relating other than control and manipulation. After all, if you're not intimately connected with the person, what's left is the control and the manipulation and the projecting on other person, vomiting their pain onto you, or even worse, onto their own children, which could be you. So as you can see, it's not just the person who drives a Ferrari and has lots of plastic surgery and lives in a beautiful mansion and flaunts their incredible jewelry. It's not just the grandiose kind of narcissism that you need to be watchful for. You want to look at these subtle cues, and they come in all shapes and sizes. And as most of you know, there are the overt narcissists, which are much easier to spot, and then there are the covert ones, which are these covert narcissists are great chameleons, and they're able to do what most people want and need, which is mirror and attune to you, but it's not really authentic. It's actually designed to hook you in, designed to bring you to a place where you trust them and fall into a place of feeling like, oh, I finally met somebody who really gets me. I finally met somebody who really can meet my psychological, emotional needs. And anybody can put on an act. Well, maybe not anybody could put on an act, but covert narcissists are particularly good at putting on an act because they have an agenda. Either they need your money, or they need your fame, or they need a place to stay, or they need something from you. But I assure you that once they've achieved that, they're on to their next source of supply. As a matter of fact, when you co-sign their BS, so to speak, when you co-sign their horrific plan, then what you're really doing is you're giving them the strength and ability to puff up and appear bigger and stronger, and therefore they can go fishing for other people. And so it's just a matter of time before they cheat on you or dump you for somebody else, or just move on in various ways. Now, it doesn't even have to be a person that they're cheating on you with. It could be the computer and porn, or it could be their ism, which I refer to as their addictions, like their alcoholism, or their addiction to their cell phone or their computer, or their drug addiction, whatever it is. But certainly this hole in the soul shows up in very, very destructive forms. And if you're embroiled with an individual who is exhibiting these traits, it might be necessary to leave. So one of the ways that I help people determine whether to stay or go is this gut feeling that everybody possesses. There's this gut feeling in each one of us. We call it our intuition. And if our gut is telling us that we're getting sicker and weaker and less in control of our lives, and we're becoming the shell of a person we used to be. As a matter of fact, many times in therapy, people will use those words. I've become a shell of the person that I used to be. Well, what happened here? What happened is that that person sucked you dry, whether it be financially or emotionally, or in so many ways to really take from another human being. But certainly it's not a give dynamic. It's not where you're giving and they're giving and you're better off as having known each other, and that you're growth partners and synergistic. That's not happening.
Dr. Judy, I think we have one call.
Relationship. Okay, I'm happy to take it. So hopefully the call center is working. Hi.
Hi.
Hi, thank you so much for calling in, and I sure hope the call stays with us. So, what is your name,
Yes.
please? Yes,
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yes,
Oh, okay, great. Hi, it's Robert. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. I know this subject is near and dear to your heart. So, Robert has called in several times, and he's near and dear to my heart. We communicate quite a bit, and he's grown so much. So Robert, how are you relating to the subject, and what inspired you to make some comments tonight or share your story tonight?
Well, what inspired me was to pretty much to go no contact was through countless um, violations after violations,
Yeah.
and then once I got out of it, I started to see the perpetrators for who they really were and how I didn't want that in my life when I was
Yes.
able to break away from them. And I started to just crave to be healthy, to be spiritually healthy, physically healthy, as well as mentally healthy, because it was a total mind uh, uh, abuse. You know, we could say,
Yes.
mind F, but it was just emotional abuse, gaslighting, physical abuse. When I mentioned in an email about how my dad did not do anything, even though it was right in front of him, when I was pre- going to be physically abused at the his
Yes.
uh, family restaurant with the sister there, and when you go no contact, um, I have to admit, the whole time I went, such a peace came over me. You know, it was only when I would maybe try to go uh, light contact, which did not work for me at all because it was extremely too much heavy duty
Mm-hmm.
mentally
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
to hold back or to just fake it. So I just went no contact, and the more I thought about just the abuse, the betrayal, the soul butchering of,
Yes.
and the more I just became apathetic, as we spoke about, and I just love myself, and I'm living now. It took me a long time, and me. It took you actually to tell me that I deserve a good life because I never believed that at
Absolutely.
38. I'm 41, and I have my beautiful dog next to me who's teaching me of unconditional love,
Yeah.
and it's it's just we know when we're violated, and
Yes.
and you don't want that, and I was able to get out. And for the people that can't get out, um, that would have to be your specialty because I know that when I was in there, um, and I couldn't get out, I was physically getting sick in terms of uh, high blood pressure, heart palpitations. I was on medication, and then
Mm-hmm.
I knew that the doctor was saying we have to see something. Let's go to a specialist, and I
Now I
knew
just
what the causes were.
so I
Yes,
want to just make a point there, Robert, because I was talking about trusting your gut. And sometimes it's not just the psychological, but the psychological actually turns physical. And so, as we know, the mind and the body are interconnected. And so, once we start feeling the headaches and the backaches and the tension and the stomach aches and so forth, we know something is definitely wrong because the body will not stop talking to us until we do something to solve the problem. And in your case, I know that you've had flashbacks, you've had nightmares, you've had intensive dreams, and so on. And this is the kind of
yes,
thing where I know you asked me why is this still happening, and I think it's your psyche still trying to work it out. We go back into the WTF, which is the what the Freud, the repetition principle. Why do we do that? Because on some level, we don't want to give up. We don't want to give up the ghost. We don't want to give up on people who we wish we could love and we wish could love us back. But that's just a wish, because sometimes it doesn't happen that way. Doesn't happen that
can
way.
I just have to have to make the comment that I, for the longest time, I don't, and I still do not wish that they would love me or anything like that. The dreams, it's just me basically saying that I hate them and I don't want them in my life, and
Yes.
feeling their intense energy.
Yeah.
And in my everyday world, it's not even a thought, but it's just me telling them in a dream, I don't want you in my life, and feeling that um, intensity, even after 20 minutes waking up and having my coffee. It's
And
like something you have to take away.
people go through different stages, and that's why I put out these videos like grieving the parents you never had, which speaks to how we wish that parents were different, and we honor them, or we try to honor them, and then we're so disappointed. And when it crosses certain lines, and we know these lines, you've been right at the line and crossed over the line, where in your case someone put some coins into your salad. I mean, what a horrific thing to do to a human being, let alone uh, who did this? Your father did this, or your mother did this?
No, it was my sister's girlfriends who were buying the restaurant, who were actually working in the restaurant. Their
Mm-hmm.
names were Michelle. My sister was Natalie,
Mm-hmm.
and Robert and Rita are my parents.
Okay.
After it was done, my dad pretty much, well, my friend ended up eating the salad. The next day, I saw the girl. She looked me in the eye and said, "So Bob, how was the salad?" I said, "Oh, fine." It was still in the refrigerator. So the next night, my friend went to go eat it and said, "What is this?" He saw all these coins, and it was
Oh
meant
my
for me to
God.
break my
Oh
teeth
my God.
and
Yeah.
hurt me because I'm visually impaired. So they knew,
Mm-hmm.
let's
Mm-hmm.
get him that way. So
So
my dad
look.
had the surveillance footage. He had the surveillance footage of the girl handing me the salad. He destroyed
Mm-hmm.
that, and after it came in a dream that it was her who did it,
Mm-hmm.
he just turned a blind eye, and then later went to their wedding, and my
What a
mother and
betrayal. Yeah. What a
they
betrayal.
all went to the wedding and celebrated with them. And that, to me, my mother was in the hospital for with a lung cancer scare, and I
So
just think about her celebrating with that girl, and there's just nothing.
So I
The
just want to
point of
make
no
some
return.
points. Okay, so Robert, you're bringing up exactly that, a point of no return. When it turns physically violent, when it is so emotionally abusive that you start feeling sick to the pit of your stomach, when you're depleted financially, when you're just depleted energetically, don't you think it's time to leave? Don't you think it's time to put yourself first?
Yes, well, I towards the end I felt such almost like a hostage to my dad. He had such control over me that
Yes.
he knew where I lived. He would throw the manipulation, the guilt, and I was pretty much beaten down like a dead horse towards the end until I
Okay.
started to break away, educate myself, and it took a while, but I'm 41, I'm young, and I'm pretty much living for love, living for the love of myself, the compassion that was never given to me,
And you know what's
and
amazing? And I'll let other people have an opportunity to call in. But you know what's so amazing? In the case of you, Robert, you have completely been nourishing yourself in the last several months, or maybe even a year that I've known you. You have gotten your dog, who you're super close to, and you don't let people into your life that could hurt you either by active omission or commission. And let me clarify, because there are two ways that you can hurt another human being. One, by actively doing something to them, and then by passively not being there to do something for them. and both are painful, and especially the act of omission is very, very, very easily felt as a sense of betrayal. So, Robert, I'm actually going to shrink your tune tonight. Okay, so I just want to leave a little room for other callers and make some points about when it's time. So thank you so much for calling in. I really appreciate it, and I know we'll keep in touch
You're
as we
welcome.
always do.
And just 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 for the audience and everyone who's listening, if you can go no contact, do it. But
Mm-hmm.
gray rock and light contact, it takes too much out of you. So I just want to leave everyone with that. It's overwhelming to just fake it with someone who doesn't care about you.
Thank
So
you. I
with that note, I love you, Dr. Judy. Beautiful talking to you tonight, and
likewise,
I,
Robert.
I, I look forward to the rest of the show.
Okay,
So good
okay,
night.
okay. Good night, Robert. Thank you so much. And I'm
Thank
sure if you've been consistent listeners, you've met Robert in the past, and he truly has come such a long way. Where his self esteem is so high, and he's got so much love in his heart, and he really prizes that and protects that. And so you all deserve to prize and protect your heart, and you all deserve to put yourselves first, and it is okay to trust your instincts. So I want to break down the mind map a little bit more. Um, this tonight's show is going to be a little bit shorter. I'm going to be shrinking a tune, and I just want to really make the point. I think Robert had a good point that sometimes it's too difficult to go gray rock, which is the term used for real light contact. Sometimes you have to, because that person is your boss, or that person is somebody that you need to transact with in life. And gray rock, is, in my understanding, is a way of keeping in sort of light, distant contact with this person. And the way to do it is to not bring in your emotions, because the last thing you want to do is try to converse with a person who has no empathy and no ability to really get you. It's going to go nowhere, and you're going to end up frustrated. And so, what can you say to people like that? I'm pretty clear on what I can say, which is, so how's your salad? Nice piece of furniture that you just acquired for your home, or something that is object oriented.
We do have
By
someone else in
object
the waiting room.
oriented, do we have another call?
We do, yeah.
Okay, hi. Thank you so much for calling in. And what is your name, please?
Her
Can
name
you
is
Hello.
hear?
Jennifer.
Hi, thank you so much for calling in. And what is your name, please? And you can make up a name if you don't want to share your real name.
Oh, okay. Well, my name is Jennifer, but is it okay if we just use like J instead? So it's
Yeah.
just so I'm not identifiable.
Yes, of course, of course. So tell me what's going on with you, Jay. What inspired the call in?
Okay. Well, yeah, I definitely have experience with going no contact. I went no contact with my family of origin, and they're definitely just to relate to the topic in saying that there are definitely a lot of benefits and that you are able to actually heal, or I was able to actually finally heal when I was away
Mm-hmm.
from the constant um, negativity that it was impossible to remap my consciousness and
Yes,
grow with
yes.
my family of origin, yeah,
I
with my
think
family of, yes.
so you're bringing up the point that once you seal off the poison, is the way I'm looking at what you're saying. Once you seal it off, you can start to heal. But if you let aspects of the poison back in, it's sort of like what I refer to the permeable membrane. And this is all in my book. And please, everybody, grab a copy of it. It's the PDF is free. You can also order a copy off of Amazon. And all of this is very detailed in my book, Be the Cause, and in the video series, which you can see up on the screen now. Thank you. The video series is a breakdown of the mind map system of healing. And so, going back to what you're talking about, Jay, is that when we have um, permeable membranes, meaning when we're people pleasers, when we let people in because we're soft hearted or we have no boundaries, then people who are so inclined to use and abuse and manipulate and take from us get in there and they put their hook in us. And pretty soon we're less than who we are. We're that shell of a person we used to be. And it's devastating to the psyche. So sometimes it is a good idea to just seal off the boundaries and become non-permeable to people like that, because even with gray rock or light contact, there's always that opportunity where you're not feeling well, or you're more vulnerable, or maybe there's a death in the family, or maybe through age you want to contact these people and try one more time, or a kind of a sense of self-doubt seeps in. But so you're saying, Jay, in your case, you're better off sealing it, correct?
Exactly. And what was really the last straw was actually my mother sent me a photo of myself when I was a child, one of my earliest photos. And when I saw that photo, I was just shocked, like thinking, how could you treat a child like that? And how could they treat me
I'm
that
so
way?
sorry.
And so it made me definitely, that was the last straw. And it was, after almost 2.5 decades
Mm-hmm.
of putting up with physical abuse, extreme abuse. Even
Yes.
my father went to jail for physical domestic violence against
Yeah.
me.
Yes.
So it took me a long time and a lot of bravery to really go no contact. But that was really the only way for me to heal, was to go completely no contact, even though it left me alone. And maybe in some ways I can be vulnerable because I'm by myself, but I have to focus now on making my own family, making my
Absolutely.
new tribe. And I wasn't able to do that with constant criticism, with hearing those words and just going back into old patterns and old cycles when
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
you're trying to be better, but your narcissistic family of origin
Right.
won't have you be better because you're the perfect scapegoat. I was the scapegoat in my family. So it was the only way for me to heal, really.
Well, you don't owe anybody anything. At the end of the day, if a person is violent with you, if the person is verbally abusive to you, if the person is so neglectful to you that they leave you feeling as though you don't matter, these are the signs that it might be time for you to say goodbye. And it really is okay to say goodbye to people who don't serve you, because what are they there for? To take, take, take. And after a while, you get the memo that there's no light in this relationship. And after a while, when it becomes so toxic, and you get physically sick, then um, then you go back into that. Oh my God, I'm literally ill from this. I remember in cases where I had to break from people that did not serve me. I remember I felt like I was going through some sort of exorcism. I remember one incident where I was so physically sick, I was throwing up over it, just throwing up. Nothing would come out because there was nothing in my stomach, but I just kept going through the motions of throwing up. So that's how physical it gets. It's really, really nasty. And if it gets obviously close to that point, or at that point, or even beyond that point in some cases, you've got to leave. You've got to leave. So thank you so much for sharing this. I'm going to go through the mind map really briefly. I'm going to shrink a tune. And so that I really want people to get the message that you absolutely deserve to put yourself first. And if you could put the mind map up for a couple of minutes, I can show you what I mean by putting yourself first. Because again, this is a system gone wrong. Okay, it's a system gone wrong, and the system gone wrong is predicated on the fact that instead of your parents putting you number one, what happens is that they're number one and you're feeding their hole in the soul. And when you're feeding their hole in the soul, it becomes that depletionary, is that a word? The depleting system where you feel as though you're not being fed, but somehow you're feeding another person. So if you look at the mind map, it is divided into 9 panels. You could see the first 3 panels are the wounds of childhood, your reactions and your encoding, and particularly the narcissistic abuse wound has to do with emotional neglect, apathy, when you feel that that person just doesn't give a damn about you. And there are many signs that where this shows up, where they just are not paying attention, where you feel that they feel that you're a burden if you're not feeling well, where unless you deliver to them and please their needs, then you're not worthy. There's so many signs, and please go over my other YouTube episodes. I have, oh my goodness, probably 400 up there, and keep learning and grab that copy of the Be the Cause book, because the more you're psychoeducated, the more you're able to recognize these signs, the stronger you will be. And then you won't be a sucker to these people. And then when you get a hint that something's rotten in the state of Denmark, it just doesn't feel right in your gut, it just doesn't feel right on any level, and you become your light starts to dwindle and you become less and less of the person you are, and your life force really starts to go down, then you know that it's time to leave. And so with that said, I do want to shrink a tune. It is a tune by request. Thank you, Robert. And I'm finally back to shrinking tunes. So this one is called Fighter by Christina Aguilera. And it's reflective of when you've just, given too much here. After all you put me through, you think I despise you, but in the end, I want to thank you because you've made me that much stronger. And the mind map system specifically talks about the curse by design, where the suffering turns into something that actually wakes you up, makes you more conscious, and by design now you're able to use it to make you stronger. Well, I thought you knew, thinking that you were true. Guess I couldn't trust, called your bluff, time is up, because I've had enough. So here's a person who's in touch with her righteous indignation. She's had enough. You were there by my side, always down for the ride, but your joyride just came down in flames because your greed sold me out in shame. So here's the take. There's the greed, and the greed is taking her down. After all the stealing and cheating, you probably think that I hold resentment for you, but you're wrong. Because if it wasn't for all that you tried to do, I wouldn't know just how capable I am to pull through. So I want to say thank you. Makes me stronger, makes me harder, makes me wiser, makes me a fighter, a bit faster, bit thicker, bit smarter, makes me a fighter. Thanks for making me a fighter. Never saw it coming. All of your backstabbing just so you can cash in on a good thing before I realized your game. I heard you're going around playing the victim now. And it just keeps going into making her stronger. Because if it wasn't for all the torture, I wouldn't know how to be this way. And now I never back down. So I want to say thank you. So with that said, I want to say thank you to all the people who psychoeducated me, mainly through a lot of pain and study of psychology, combined with that and being tricked and manipulated and gaslit and so on. I can truly say that there exists a mind map, because that the curse by designs that I experienced in my own life taught me that there's a pathway out, and inspired me to create a pathway out, which is the from, through, to methodology of the mind map, where we literally break down the encodings of the past and how these encodings trigger us into chaos, defenses, and breakdowns, and how to morph out. And the goal here is to pair up with people that are synergistic. So the opposite of narcissism is when you have synergistic relationships where you're enhancing each other. I call it growth partners, people who create the 1+1 is greater than 2 phenomenon. And it's quite the opposite of this other vampiring effect where 1+1 makes you the shell of the person that used to be. So please, please, please put yourself first and understand that if you're not putting yourself first and you're still feeling like you're a victim to this narcissistic abuse and easily gaslit and easily manipulated, please read my book and get the mindmap video series. It'll really drive the point home. And the more you know, the less vulnerable you will be. And my favorite quote in the book, at least one of them, is a quote by Einstein where he says that smart people solve problems and geniuses prevent them. So by knowing about narcissism, by knowing your childhood wounds and your vulnerability points, you will become smarter and wiser, and you'll be able to prevent yourself from being at the effect of this system gone wrong and turn it around so that you can be the cause of a much stronger, much better outcome to part 2 of your life. And everyone, feel free to call in for your free consultation. You can sign up for one, and I'm happy to match you with a therapist on staff or work with you myself. I'm a very fortunate human being. I truly love what I do. And one thing about the system is that it's actually a system that takes place in 10 sessions. So you don't need to do years and years of therapy in order to heal. And so that's important because it's focused and it will absolutely nail the childhood wounds that led you to your vulnerabilities that then led you to being vulnerable to this narcissistic abuse. So I thank you for tuning in. I will see you next time. And please feel free to gather more information about this and gather more information from myself or my team. Good night, everyone. And if you've enjoyed my show, please subscribe to my channel. If you need help, please call the number below. And if you've enjoyed my show, please subscribe.